Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back. Americana, roots music, folk music, country rock. Those of you who've been watching me for a while know I am fully entrenched in a lot of that music. And I want to show 8 records that I've been listening to over the last week, two of which just came out in the last month that are fantastic. A couple, actually 4, I think, that came out in 2024 that for some reason I listened to and I kind of put it to the side and I didn't really dive into it. And you really have to invest yourself in music. And I listen to so much music, things do sometimes get passed by. And a couple of records here that I missed completely that I got turned on to just very recently and would have made my top list of the end of the year. There's that. And there's one record that's almost 25 years old. I think next year it'll be 25 that I got a reissue of just again in the past a year, but a record that came out in 2021 that is about great songwriting. And to me, the great thing about good folk music, good Americana, good country music, at essence, is the songwriting. It's not usually about big production. In fact, a lot of times it's scaled down, maybe acoustic based, not always. And I just love that type of music, going back from the Byrds and Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash and the Flying Burrito Brothers in the 60s. I really was entrenched in that. But before I get into that, of course, you know, or some of you may guess where I'm going to start. To me, one of the first great Americana albums that turned me on to the genre in 1965, December 1965, wasn't even totally organized and created by the artist, at least this version of this. And it was an album that we didn't even call anything Americana. That didn't exist then. There was folk music from the folk scene, from obviously the 40s and 50s, from Woody Guthrie on through the folk revival of the 1960s, late 50s, early 60s. But to me, I know I say this, but I don't think any of these records would sound the way they did if it wasn't for this album and the American version of Rubber Soul. I'm throwing that out there. You know, you can scream at the camera all you want if you're in Britain and you think it's not the way the Beatles intended, but Capitol Records altered tracks, took tracks off, put them on, you know, the American versions, took songs off of Help, just changed things around. We all know the story, which I won't get into, of Capitol made basically 3 records for every 2 records the Beatles actually made, put on singles. But this is that woodsy, smoky, folksy essence at heart. This is the perfect Americana folk rock record from this British group, recorded in Abbey Road Studios in 1965. Opening up with I Just Seen a Face, Norwegian Wood, You Won't See Me, Think for Yourself. That's probably the more rocker ones in the word. But then you got Michelle, It's Only Love, Girl, I'm Looking Through You, the beautiful Lennon In My Life, Wait, and Run for Your Life If You Can. A very countryish song. The Beatles were entrenched, obviously Ringo with covering Buck Owens and, Paul McCartney writing Rocky Raccoon and Don't Pass Me By Ringo. There's a lot of country in the Beatles music. So that's setting the tone for this collection of records. 8 records, some you may know, some may not. I'm going to start out with a record that is one of the best records of the year so far. Came out in January. And this album is called The Purple Bird by Bonnie Prince Billy. Bonnie Prince Billy has been making records for the last, 20 years or so. He's also an actor, been in movies going back to Matewan and beyond. He's got this real kind of interesting, quirky, timeless look, or a time of like Civil War and a lot of Westerns. And he's always had country and folk the essence of his music, and he's collaborated with a lot of great artists. I have a couple records by Scout Niblet that he sings on, but this apparently the whole thing is this is his first all country record, recorded in Nashville, produced in a different way with some Nashville musicians. But this isn't your father's or your uncle's or your redneck friends' country music out of Nashville. It's not the slick country that's happening now in Nashville. It more is akin to artists like Chris Christopherson or Don Williams from the 70s on ABC Records. Not vocal wise and not really arrangements, but the spirit of it, a little more even John Prine. It's really beautiful. It's got a couple of honky tonk things, but there's some really beautiful ethereal country with the violin, the mood pieces. Uh, what a great record. I don't think he's done a record of his own songs for about 4 or 5 years, probably at the beginning of the pandemic. I missed the last couple, and I get in him every once in a while. I'm not an all in. I love collaborations he's done with a bunch of artists, Bill Callahan for one, and this is really a beautiful record. Again, because of this kind of music, people always talk about the great sounding jazz records of Blue Note and other labels and Prestige, and because they're essentially not major overdub things. They're a small group of artists, usually recorded live. Occasionally, depending on the production and the style of record, things will be added on. But it's musicians playing together, and that's pretty much what all these records, more or less, feel. I'm not saying that some of them were recorded in different parts, and then obviously someone adds in vocals or something. I don't know the answer to that on some of these, but I tell you, this album by Bonnie Prince Billy, I always get the order of his name wrong, is a fabulous record. If you like a good mood country record, lyrically, I think it's pretty safe lyrically. A little bit about environmental issues, but not in your face, which wouldn't bother me anyway. But this is a fabulous record, one of the best albums of 2025 so far. Another album that I anticipated, and of course I had to get, and I was pleasantly surprised when I heard who was producing it and who was putting it together, and that is the album by Ringo Starr. Ironically, this is the album that I've gotten the most requests. Are you going to review the Ringo album, Maz, because of my Beatles love? Yes. First of all, this is probably the best cover art. There's great photograph of Ringo Starr there and there. How heroic. 84 years old. He's going to be 85 this year. Jesus Christ. His voice sounds almost exactly the same. Now, there we go. I think that's a Stetson. By the way, I'm wearing my Stetson Stratoliner today to celebrate this music. This is a really good album. Now, last year, one of my favorite albums of the year was the T-Bone Burnett album, which is incredible. Very spiritual, country, folksy, but it's got like a spiritual side to it. That is the better album. I know it's not a competition. It's unfair to compare, but T-Bone laid these tracks down and brought these artists to collaborate with Ringo. And, Ringo's always been great. When he does one or two, usually one song on the Beatles album, that was enough. And he'd have, obviously, Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison to supplement his vocals and add to the magic of his records. That's why they sound so good. And that's why that first solo rock album, the Ringo album from '73, did so well, because all the friends, from members of the band to the Beatles to Harry Nilsson to so many great artists on that record, made it a great record. This is great because also T-Bone Burnett not only brings great arrangements. I always like his sound of his records, the sound of his instrumentation, the acoustics, the percussion, but he also has Billy Strings, Molly Tuttle, Lucius, and Alison Krauss on here, doing harmonies and stuff, and it really supplements Ringo's dry voice. He doesn't break any new ground. That's not what this country or most country albums are about. This is a safe record, but it's a deliciously wonderful record. Now, Bucos of Blues, his second album he ever did solo, 1970, I believe this came out, is a fabulous record. This is more of old school Nashville, Charlie McCoy, Pete Drake. This is a great record. This is the better record of the two. Of course, 55 year difference, but it's amazing that he still has this love for this. I was getting tired of his EPs and every once in a while doing this song. Back in Liverpool when I was the boys and the lads and all that bullshit, this is not just that. There are a couple of looking back songs, but it's not really just that at all. Highly recommended if you like Ringo. This is a good one. I think he hasn't done a record this good in a long time, a very long time. So Ringo Starr, country, in the T-Bone Burnett style of country music. Now, this is a record that I just got in the last week, And I was flabbergasted. I missed this. I didn't know anything about this artist. This album came out about a year ago, and this is Vera Sola, Peacemaker. Now, to me, this is my favorite album of the moment, Peacemaker. It is on Spectrophonic Records. I don't know if it's an independent or her own label or whatever, but this is a beautiful record. I'll get into the music a little bit. Look at this label, one of the best labels I've seen in a long time. And one of the most delicious, I said delicious twice already, haven't I? But look at this. This is a beautiful, richest, God, it's like blood red or something. What a beautiful cover and a beautiful, I'm not usually a colored record person, colored vinyl, but oh my God. Get this, I think I got it for 20 bucks. But you can, Bandcamp, it might be 28 on her site. Go to Bandcamp, and her name is Vera Sola. I'll tell you exactly who she is and her DNA, because that shouldn't matter, but it just was interesting because I wouldn't have called that. Now, since I got this, I've watched a couple of live performances on YouTube of her, and I've watched one like long form or about a 20-minute, 25-minute video interview with her, and it's not what I expected at all. What's interesting about her is her influences. One that really surprised me, she's very influenced by the blues artist Skip James, who had kind of like a ethereal type of bluesy, rootsy sound. He wrote the song that Cream made famous, I'm So Glad, on their first album, their debut album. Also a fan of Son House. But her guitar playing, she's got this finger picking style that's very fast picking on when she does her acoustic guitar playing. At least I watched it in the videos, and it reminded me of the style of guitar playing that Leonard Cohen did on his first records. Now, she sounds nothing like Leonard Cohen, although she is a Canadian American citizen, lived in grew up in New York and on a farm in Canada, and this beautiful sound. Now, musically, I was trying to think what this reminded me of. And we always like to compare artists just to explain it. When you're not playing the music, you want to kind of give it a base and a place and set a feel. So if you like this, you might check out this. This reminded me of Lana Del Rey if she had a double espresso, so she's not slow and moody and dark, dirgy in that respect, with the band Calexo backing her up. A lot of the music on here has that kind of southwest American landscape sound of Calexico. I've featured them quite a bit. I love Calexico. Is that feel? She's got this great set of artists on here that has this ethereal sound. Now, she's not another typical young ingenue singer. I think she's around 30 years old, in her early 30s. This is her second album. I haven't heard her first album yet. I think it came, apparently she's been recording this or recorded these songs about 4 years ago, and they came out a year ago, in 2024. I just saw, I think the reason I went after, there's a new EP where she kind of recreates or redoes a couple of these songs and does a great collaboration with the Milk Carton Kids. So seek that out. I think it's only a digital download at this point, but there's a YouTube video of it. Vera Sola is a great name for her. And there's a darkness to this music. The song, the title track, Peacemaker, and I heard her talk about that. That's basically, she got the name from the weapon of war, the first weapon of the American West War, when the Peacemaker rifle was made, when people were coming from the east, crossing to the western states, western plains, back in the 1800s. What a time! What an album! What a mood to it. So there's some really wonderful political issues. I was also amazed and surprised. It's great because we see interviews with all these musicians and rock stars and pop stars and folk singers, and there's a certain lightness to them and everything. And this woman is intense, and I mean that in the best of ways. But you can tell this woman has. I think she studied Russian literature. Her lyrics are really amazing. And, not as personal, not like I Love You, You Love Me, although songs like Bad Idea, The Line, I'm Lying, Get Wise, Desire Path, Blood Bond, and ending with Instrument of War, which apparently was the original kind of in place title for this album, but it seemed like Peacemaker should be the better thing. Now, this also has a wonderful separate little booklet of the lyrics on here. I mean, look at the design on this booklet. I mean, this is beautiful, right? She's got a great band. I would like to see her. She's got a little bit of a deep voice. There's some videos online of her just acoustic guitar and some with her band, and the mood of the band is beautiful. Now, again, a dark, lower range of her vocals, but a little ominous, but gorgeous as hell and ethereal as hell. Like, the Lana Del Rey has that kind of moody, something like David Lynch would love on or put on any of his movies back then. She has that, but it's a little more up. I think it just grabbed me the first time. I've listened to this album about 6 times now. It's that. The interesting thing, which I found out, which I didn't know, and it's kind of nice I didn't know it because this shouldn't matter. Her father, it's funny, seeing that interview, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe who her parents are, because her temperament, her mood, and her intensity seem to be totally opposite of her father, especially. Her father is Dan Aykroyd. Her mother is Donna Dixon. Beautiful woman, actress. They got married many years ago. But this is a fabulous album. I think, I'm looking forward to where she's going. She's not taken the pop artist direction, journey, and she's doing things on her own terms. You can tell she's driven in her own way. And I think, that could totally make her in a cult way and hopefully beyond that, or could destroy the world. Record companies want to make you something you're not. So I think this is an amazing record. There you can kind of see, getting the light, that little gold thing. Love that. So that's Vera Sola, Peacemaker. Next, an album I got last year. It didn't make my list because I listened to it, and then I think I just got so busy I didn't jump into it. Now, this is an interesting thing, but this is a fabulous record. This is Passage de Désir, French. Of course, that. There we go. This is by an artist by the name of Johnny Blue Skies. Now, come on, what the fuck, right? This is Sturgill Simpson's latest album that came out about a year ago now, within almost a year. This is a really good record, but I put it on and I played it, and I love his voice. He's kind of like, reincarnation vocal-wise of a little bit of the Waylon Jennings sound. And what's great about him, I just adore him as an artist, because when he first came out with the Cosmic Cowboy record, was it 10 years ago now? Meta Country, whatever it's called, that had, the psychedelic bird sound. Marty Stewart, what he's doing now with his superlatives. A wonderful record, cult following, everything. And then he did the album, which has the horns and R&B thing. He was going in left and right directions musically. Essence was the country, but then he would go in funk and prog, but country and Americana music was always at the forefront. Great guitar player, great voice, an amazing songwriter. Then he does that album, Sound of Fury, and I think some people lost it there. He went with the funk and soul thing with some big sort of anime production thing. It didn't quite work for some audiences. I think it's still a good record, not his best. And then during the pandemic, he did 2 literally independent bluegrass records, which are wonderful, right? So he has the Quentin Tarantino school of self-promotion artistry. Quentin, if you don't know, he said he's only going to do 10 movies and then quit. Now, Quentin has one more movie to go. So he started doing a movie on a movie critic, had the script ready, and he abandoned it. So we don't know what he's going to do next. Now, theoretically, you can say you're going to do that, then maybe Quentin will do something under another name. Maybe he'll do TV series, but only 10 movies and then stop. Why does an artist have to do this? So this is the same thing with Sturgill. He said he's only going to do 5 albums under the name Sturgill Simpson. Has he done 5? I think he's done 5 now. And what the fuck? Why do you have to do that? This is a great Sturgill Simpson album, but it's under the name Johnny Blue Skies. Maybe that's why I got lost a little bit. I think there probably was a hype sticker saying his name, but this is, to me, this is one of the best records he's ever done, aside from those first 2-3 records. This has great songwriting. It's wonderfully recorded. There's some great kind of, his guitar playing is good. He gets into the rock vein, but they're not rock songs, and they're not quite country songs. But obviously, when you listen to it, you think country. But it's just a brilliant, brilliant, wonderful record. And it took me, the whole year to really rediscover it. So this video has some albums that I bought over the last year, but I kind of didn't envelop myself in it. And this is one of the great ones. Sturgill. You're always Sturgill to me. Here's another one. This is an artist I'm all in on, and this is Griff Rhys. Griff Rhys is the Welsh musician, a member of Super Furry Animals, and they're on hiatus, or they're probably gone. He was the main vocalist, center vocalist, the proper songwriter, or the main songwriter of them. But those records that are a little bit of a rock and roll, art rock, Beatle-esque electronic thing. Super Furry, I saw them 3 times live. They were incredible. I've seen Griff Rhys once live. He is great. He's got a new band. His records are very quirky songwriting, and I love them. And this record came out last year, and it's called Sadness Sets Me Free. Now, this one is not a country record or folk record, but it starts out with a song called Sadness Sets Me Free, the title song that has an essence of country music. So it's got that thing, but he's got this kind of weird accent in his voice that you have to really pay attention to listen to the lyrics. But his lyrics are extremely clever and hysterical. Celestial Candy Floss is the name of the song. Silver Lining, Lead Balloons. He gets very political and very against the system, against the big banks, against of government in a wonderfully humorous way, especially if you heard some of those later Super Furry Animals and all his records. Again, a little bit of a country, but that's a small part. A lot of lounge, little Tropicana, interesting bossa nova thing going. It's a mix of music, and it's, you might think it's a mess. I think that's why last year when I put this on, it just, I couldn't focus. I wasn't sitting myself down and focusing on it. But once I got into it in the last month again, around the holidays and post-holidays, I went back to some records. I didn't want to file this away just for the sake of it without really knowing it. But I tell you, I finally fell in love with it, and I love it now. It's hysterical. So Griff Rhys, Welsh artist on Rough Trade Records. But it fits in the great songwriting. I think that's the best thing about this. Now, this is an album I used to see all the time, and I had no idea what it was. Okay, this came out last year. Apparently, this made a lot of top 10 lists. I didn't hear it until this year because of my friend Chris, the Long Cut. We had a conversation, and he kept promoting this guy. This guy's been around for a while, and he's on his early 20s, mid-20s. Interesting thing is, this is MJ Lenderman. Okay, this album is called Manning Fireworks. I'd say, again, the comparison to get a feel with this guy, this sounds like a Neil Young Crazy Horse record at times. It's got that grungy, long-winded guitar thing. In fact, there's one song, I believe it's on side 2, that just goes on. It reminds me of that Wilco song on Ghost, on A Ghost is Born, that literally goes on for 15, 20 minutes with just kind of feedback and weird noisy sounds. And he's got that. It's like a 9-minute song. It's called Bark at the Moon. It's in that vein. In fact, I was listening to Wilco's Ghost to the Moon, which just has a new reissue, expanded thing out, by the way, which I haven't heard. And then I played this right after. I thought, oh my God, that's the same thing. It's amazing. Now, not exactly the same, but MJ Lenderman, I keep thinking, okay, there's some great songwriting on here. I'm not totally sold on him, but it's really a good record, and I'm interested. And the irony is, I was looking at this and thinking about Neil Young and thinking, okay, 25 years old, what record did Neil Young put out when he was 25? and it was After the Gold Rush, which to me is Neil Young's best record. I mean, it's my favorite record. There's so many great Neil Young records. So it's interesting to see what this guy is doing. I mean, that's a much better record than this. But, and this is like the later Crazy Horse when he just gets, you know, not Tonight's the Night on the Beach, that whole thing. It's more like that Neil Young. MJ Lenderman, a wonderful record. This is on Anti. That's the label right there. And thanks, Chris, for turning me on to this. I think other people, Todd might have as well, but a number of people, maybe John, the trio of Wilco folks, and it's really a good record. But I'm still diving into it. Now, this is totally off base. This came out last year, too, and I couldn't find a copy. And as of this recording, it's hard to get on vinyl. It seems to be sold out everywhere. Go to their Bandcamp site. Maybe you can get it. That's where I got it. Maybe you can get the CD. This is Badfinger. Now, this is totally a different thing, but this is a really good album, and it's called Head First. I love this cover. The package is amazing for something that's 50, plus years old. 50 years old last year. Well, the year it came out. Badfinger obviously has a tragic story. Of course, we know they were one of the first bands signed to Apple Records. George Harrison, Mal Evans, Paul McCartney worked on songs with them. Come and Get It, Badfinger, Magic Christian Music, Straight Up. Todd Rundgren produced some of their stuff. Those first 3-4 albums are fantastic. And then they had a whole issue. They finally leave Apple, go to Warner Brothers, but then their manager stole money, stole their advances from Warner Brothers, and eventually, over the years, Pete Hang and Terry, two of the members hung themselves, which is such a tragic story, getting fucked by managers and labels and things. And this is a record that never came out initially. This is one that they recorded for Warner Brothers. There's mixes and Warner Brothers rejected it. And again, they got screwed by the manager and it sat in the vaults, but then disappeared. And they tried to get it on some years later. There was I think some kind of digital release or CD release, and I didn't follow them. So some of you probably know more about them than I do. But this whole thing happened where some of these songs came out on substandard dub recordings. A beautiful book, has all the lyrics, and it has the story of the record, the tragic story of the record here. But this is really good power pop rock and roll. Now, Wish You Were Here wasn't one of my favorites. I like the early stuff, the great hooks, the Beatlesque sound. This is more like that. It's a beautiful record. They finally, in the last few years, found the multi-tracks and the original tapes they got from Warner Brothers and were able to do this. This label, Y&T Music, I'm not familiar with. They put a lot into this package. So if you like those first 3 Badfinger records, this is excellent. I was dubious, surprised, because, again, the later stuff they did on Warner Brothers never really thrilled me personally. I like it, but they lost their songwriting hooks. And I think this returns their hook. This is, to me, their best Warner Brothers record from as far as I'm concerned. So that's Badfinger. And lastly, a record that originally came out in 2001. This reissue came out in 2021, but I just got it in the past couple of months. I totally missed it. I do have the CD, and I love this record. This might be the first record where he became this kind of softly spoken, less produced, former pop star who just made grown-up records, lounge records, but great songs, little twist of humor, and that's The Convincer by Nick Lowe. I absolutely love this record. It's a low-key record. It's a romantic record. It is one of those, you put it on, have a cocktail record. The last song on here, in fact, is one of the most romantic songs I've heard in decades, and I remember that at the time. It's called Let's Stay In and Make Love, and he's talking to his girlfriend or his wife. They're going out to this big party, this affair, and he's got this great, slight, the British accent. We could go out in the party, we can mingle, we can do all this stuff, but instead, let's just stay home and make love. I mean, how fucking romantic is that? Home Wrecker, Only a Fool Breaks His Own Heart lately. I've Let Things Slide, She's Got Soul, Cupid Must Be Angry. It's a personal record of love and a beautiful record. This is great songwriting. This is songwriting at its best. This is a wonderful record. You know, it's been out forever. A lot of people probably know it. It's not going to be the power pop stuff of, you know, What's So Funny About Love, Peace, and Understanding, or Little Hitler, Timeless, or any of those other kind of great records he did at Columbia and on Demon and on Stiff Records, all those wonderful records. And bands he produced. Remember, he produced The Damned and Elvis Costello and countless others. Part of Brinsley Schwartz, the pub rock band before that. A fantastic record. Seek this out, either on CD or vinyl, because it's just a beautiful record to put out, you know, Friday night, 6 o'clock, you know, shake your martini, pour your whiskey, you know, have your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, whatever, over and just play this record and just sit around and listen to it. It's so good. Not country, but he's done some things in the country vein too. But, you know, these 8 records are just great songwriting and great productions. Yes, on the Americana folky DNA, a lot of it, but just pure and not overproduced, overdubbed records. And maybe the Badfinger has the most of that, but not even that much. It's just really great, beautifully recorded. So thanks for watching. Enjoy the music. Mazzy loves you.